I even messaged my mom. I was like, crap, there's a guy sitting next to me, but I think he's probably MAGA. Like, I even said that to my mom.
Imagine being so stupid that you look at this treasonous, traitorous, totally corrupt, self-serving, ignorant clown. This
Trump administration is telling seniors, if you don't get your Social Security check, don't complain about it. At least that's how it appears.
Let's say Social Security didn't send out their checks this month. My mother-in-law, who's 94, she wouldn't call and complain.
Let's just go ahead and say it out loud. These MAGA FAFO moments. Absolute gold. Not in a patriotic bald eagle screeching kind of way, but in a this is America's messiest reality show, and we can't look away kind of way. It's like the political version of The Real Housewives, but with less glam, more delusion, and a cast of characters who think being loud is the same as being right. Every day, there's a new plot twist. Someone gets indicted, someone gets caught lying, someone storms a courthouse dressed like it's cosplay night at a country fair. And just when you think the season finale is near, bam, another episode drops, full of dramatic monologues, public meltdowns, and unhinged social media rants. Honestly, it's giving America's next top cult leader, and Trump is serving main character energy like his name is tattooed on the Constitution.
Ride back from Europe with the MAGA man. I'll try to make this as short as possible, but maybe a little long. So I don't know if you know this, but flying to Europe, the flight is about 7.5 hours just this side of Europe, because you're flying with the jet stream. When you're flying back, it's about 9 hours-ish because you're flying against the jet stream. So it's a longer flight coming back, yay me. So I'm Delta Gold Medallion, Sky Priority. I was sitting in comfort class. I was on the 2-seater, so it's like, the 252 plane. So I was sitting at the window, so the seat next to me, the aisle seat, he was sitting in. When he came up, y'all, I was already on the plane. I was like, fuck. You could just tell. You could just tell. He was, burly, bearded, wearing a military hat, like all the things, right? I even messaged my mom. I was like, crap, there's a guy sitting next to me, but I think he's probably MAGA. Like, I even said that to my mom. So we're on the flight, we're flying. At some point, I look over, he has his laptop out, and I see he has something up, his medical records. And there's a logo there for my local hospital. And so I probably shouldn't have said anything, but I said, where do you live? And he goes, blah, blah. I was like, oh my God, that's where I live. And I said, I just glanced over and saw the logo for the hospital. And I was like, oh my gosh, you must be in that system too. And he's like, I am. And so we started talking to figure out we have multiple people that we both know. I probably have met him at some point and just didn't know, like years ago, out somewhere. And so come to find out, he is an ex-Army Green Beret, Special Forces. He's a Green Beret. He's coming back from Prague from this military reunion he has with some of his Green Beret buddies. And he is trying to get signed up for VA benefits because he has no medical insurance. And I said, well, good luck with that. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, because this administration is like cutting all the veteran benefits. And he's like, well, I don't know about that. And I was like, no, they are. Let's talk about it. So we start talking about it. And so in the process of this, of course, I come to find out he's a, Trump supporter. And so I said, let me ask you something. I said, what did you feel about January 6th? And he said, I thought it was great. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I said, these people killed, maimed police officers and later committed suicide. He's like, well, yeah, there wasn't that many, it was exaggerated. And I said, it doesn't matter if it was 1 or 100. I said, I said, these people were just doing their job. He goes, well, yeah, but they shot that woman. And I was like, she was breaking and entering basically. And I said, she was told to stop multiple times and she did not stop. And I said, they said, stop or we will shoot. They told her what was going to happen. She thought because she was a white woman, it wasn't going to happen, and it did. He's like, well, yeah. And so we had quite an intimated conversation, I will say. He was gesticulating. I mean, we weren't arguing, but we were having a discussion. And he got a little loud a couple of times, and the lady across the aisle from us was giving us the eyeball. I said, you need to bring it down a notch. I said, I'm not trying to be bossy pants, but I said, people are looking, and we don't need to get ejected from the plane. And so, but it was civil because we know the same people. And so then I said to him, I said, I have another question for you. He said, what? I said, what if, this administration calls martial law or at some point calls the military forward to exert force on civilians? Would you agree with that? Would you participate in that? He goes, that's not going to happen. And I was like, don't say it's not going to happen because it's being talked about. it has been talked about by the administration. And I said, so I'm just saying, you need to be thinking about that. If you were called on, or any military was called on to exert force against civilians, would you do it? I said, because that is a huge issue. And I said, because technically, even though the military serves the president, they take an oath to the Constitution, not to the president. And I said, so yeah, I would like to think that most military people would not do that. So anyway, here's the funny end to the story, y'all. So I was talking about getting a pew-pew and that I needed to learn how to shoot my pew-pew. And he's actually, I don't know if it's going to actually happen, but we have tentative plans to go, not this coming weekend, but the next weekend, March 8th, to a gun range. And he's going to show me how to use a pew-pew. And I know y'all saying, Julie, why are you hanging out with him? Well, you know, I think I might have had a little bit of an effect on him, so I'm gonna like keep working that. Keep working that. He is a nice guy. I mean, he made poor choices, but yeah, if he can teach me how to shoot a pew pew, I will be happy. So that was my story. It was quite interesting. That's the very briefest version of it. This was a 9-hour plane ride, remember? So
Imagine being so stupid that you look at this treasonous, traitorous, totally corrupt, self-serving, ignorant clown, this racist, semi-illiterate moron, this pathologically lying, feeble-minded, morally bankrupt, constitutionally illiterate simpleton, this bloated nitwit with his cotton candy hair, radioactive tinted skin, and obese dishevelment, and think, yeah, I think that's a guy I admire.
Let's say Social Security didn't send out their checks this month. My mother-in-law, who's 94, she wouldn't call and complain. She just wouldn't. She'd think something got messed up, and she'll get it next month.
Yeah.
A fraudster always makes the loudest noise, screaming, yelling, and complaining. The easiest way to find the fraudster is to stop payments and listen.
Yeah.
Because whoever screams is the one stealing.
His mother wouldn't complain because she's got a billionaire for a son. Hey, son, my $364 didn't come in this past month because you said, is he serious? This, by the way, he's like running the Commerce Department.
That's crazy.
And you've got the world's richest man on the planet that's going around, again, firing vets, slashing VA health care, and saying that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. You know, I'm usually skeptical when people say that campaign ads write themselves. But my God, as I said before, if the Democrats can't do something with this, they should get into the used car selling business.
Yes, in big news right now, overnight a federal judge has issued a second urgent warning to the acting Social Security Administrator, telling him that he cannot shut down Social Security operations in the United States. If you recall, Leland Dudek, the acting Social Security Administrator, started threatening that he's going to shut down the entire Social Security Administration because of a federal judge's order blocking Doge access to Social Security information. And well, now the judge says, quote, "It comes to my attention that acting Commissioner Dudek persists in making threats about shutting down operations at the Social Security Administration, claiming that the TRO that I issued in this case applies to all SSA employees." She goes on to say that, as I stated in my letter to counsel, the assertion that the TRO applies to all SSA employees is patently incorrect. A federal judge is literally telling the acting Social Security Administrator, you cannot shut down the Social Security Administration, that my order doesn't apply to that. She's clarifying it for him, and yet he's pursuing anyway. If Social Security is shut down, benefits will be impacted, and I'll provide you updates on my Substack this morning, so be sure to subscribe for free at the link in my bio. Follow along for all the news you need to know about.
We told you they were coming after our Social Security. We tried to warn you that he was going to come after our Social Security. And now they're coming after our Social Security. And even though Trump said, I'm not touching Social Security, and the Republican Party said, we're not going to make any cuts to Social Security. Well, guess what? Now they're looking into making cuts to Social Security. I have one thing to say. Leave my Social Security alone. Social Security is not an entitlement program. Social Security is something that we have paid into for years since we first started working. Do not touch our Social Security. And then we have Elon Musk saying that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme And then we have some other GOP representatives saying that, well, the people that are going to be bitching about not getting their Social Security are fraudsters. You know what? Social Security, my Social Security is mine. I paid into it like a savings plan. It's not something that is given to me for nothing. We have paid into our Social Security. Get your hands off of our Social Security.
Administration is telling seniors if you don't get your Social Security check, don't complain about it. At least that's how it appears, as Howard Lutnick, Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary, went on live TV to say this.
Let's say Social Security didn't send out their checks this month. My mother-in-law, who's 94, she wouldn't call and complain. She just wouldn't. She thinks something got messed up, and she'll get it next month.
Right. Be like his mother-in-law. If you don't get your check, just assume it'll take care of itself next month, and you go ahead and suffer for a whole month. Maybe go hungry. You got a metabolism that should hold you over until then. This is their justification for dismantling the help center, the call centers within Social Security, is that seniors probably wouldn't complain anyways. They'll just tough it out until their check comes next time around. When people say that cruelty is the whole purpose of this administration, sometimes I find it hard to argue anything else when they say things like this.
But here's where it gets less entertaining and more sad. Every time I talk to someone still deep in the MAGA sauce, I walk away wondering, how did we get here? Not in a philosophical sense, but literally. How did so many people get duped this hard for this long? Because when you strip away the flag waving, the caps, and the chants, you're left with folks who genuinely believe Trump is doing right by them. Even as their wallets get lighter, their rights get chipped away, and their futures get dimmer by the hour. These aren't just misinformed people. Some are your neighbors, your relatives, your old high school classmates, the ones posting 14-paragraph Facebook rants with blurry memes about grocery stores installing spy cameras in the lettuce aisle. And the saddest part? These folks think they're winning. They believe every move Trump makes, no matter how reckless, divisive, or flat-out cruel, is some kind of masterstroke, like he's 3 steps ahead in a game the rest of us just don't understand. But what exactly did he promise them? Day 1, miracles. Lower prices. Jobs for everyone. That the world would respect us again. I hate to break it to you, but the only thing Trump has delivered quickly is drama. Everything else? Still on back order. Grocery prices are sky high. Eggs cost more than a Netflix subscription. Gas? Don't even mention gas in the Midwest unless you're ready for a TED Talk on broken promises and broken bank accounts. And America's global image? We went from leader of the free world to that one guy at the party who keeps yelling and no one invited. But the real gut punch? Veterans. These are the people who bled, sweated, and sacrificed for this country. And what do they get in return? Bureaucratic red tape, underfunded programs, and policy decisions made by people who've never once had to face the consequences of war, but are quick to wave a flag and shout about patriotism. And let's not forget other vulnerable groups: immigrants, people of color, women seeking basic healthcare rights. This administration has been a wrecking ball to the very communities that make America what it should be. And the worst part? The damage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Like a law passed in the night, a service quietly defunded, or a voice that just gets drowned out in the noise. Trump 2.0 isn't a comeback, it's a cautionary tale. And while some are still sipping the Kool-Aid like it's communion wine, the rest of us are here, eyes wide open, watching history repeat itself, this time with worse lighting and even fewer facts. So yeah, the MAGA FAFO saga is oddly therapeutic. Not because we enjoy watching people struggle, but because sometimes the only way to cope with the madness is to laugh, stay informed, and remind ourselves that we're not the crazy ones.